So let's call this session an antidote to a working day. So we're going to start, because the two of you are talking about having been sitting down the whole day at your computer and whatnot. So we're going to start with legs up the wall, which requires you to get very close to a wall. And you're very welcome to have cushy things under you. It was interesting. I was teaching some yoga teachers in Galway this weekend, and we did this lovely practice, a somatic practice, movement practice. But at the beginning, I got them all to put a blanket on the floor, a blanket on top of them, and get really cozy, because we had a check-in with the body before we started moving. And then we did some movement practices, maybe some of them they were all somatics, from somatics really more than from yoga. And then using my usual language of indulgence, indulgence on a plus to the positive. And then we finished with a little mini yoga nidra. And afterwards, one of the teachers said she had never done a yoga nidra like that, where there was movement in it. And I had to explain to her that it wasn't a yoga nidra, it just was a comfortable, warm, and nurturing movement practice. And the thought occurred to me that, nobody had ever, or she hadn't ever taken herself to the floor at the beginning of a movement practice with such a level of comfort, of offering herself more nurturing, more softness beneath her, more warmth and comfort on top. I kind of forget, I think, after all the years of teaching in the way that I do, that yoga is still, many people still start it just on a bare mat with nothing to make them more nurtured, more to make their surroundings more sumptuous. So just notice what it's like to give yourself the choice of being more comfortable, more yummy. But we're still lying on a supportive, flat floor, where hopefully the head is in line with the spine, rather than lifting the head up on a big, deep pillow, for instance. And that there is a level of luxury that we can give ourselves while still getting all this feedback from the floor, getting this neutrality of spine and neck in particular, upper spine. So movement practice does not have to exclude comfort. And comfort doesn't have to be so indulgent that it excludes the point of the movement practice, which today is about letting go of some of the tensions of a day spent in activity or lack of activity that the human organism isn't really built to enjoy. So long periods of stillness is not really supportive of our organism, but our social and working life is supported by long periods of stillness, as in we are expected to stay focused at desks for long periods of time, and television programs now on demand are built to make us watch the next one and the next one and the next one in succession. So we need these little antidotes. And it would be better if we had movement snacks during the day, but we don't. Because as well as being evolved to move frequently, we're also evolved to conserve energy when we don't have to move. But the trouble is we don't have to move as much now as we did when we were hunter-gatherers. So as you lie here, just notice how that feels in terms of a sense of casting off your day. And know that just lying with your legs up the wall for 5, 10, 15 minutes before bed is a body and nervous system supportive snack that you can take out of this class and use as part of your bedtime routine. And if you choose to lengthen your breathing and meditate on your breath or on a mantra, or even play yourself some really soothing music or meditation you love, then that's going to help even more with your preparation for sleep. But even simply lying like this, without any of those extra bonuses, is of value. Deepening your breath if that feels comfortable or appropriate. Long breaths in through your nose and out through your nose or mouth. If you feel like sighing out with sound some of your day, that might be of value. And see how much you can yield the weight of your shoulders and head. And notice the bits of your body that are tired. Notice the bits of your body that are achy. And notice bits of your body that feel quite neutral, neither tired nor achy, just kind of there. And then notice areas of your body that feel curious, that feel interesting, or that have more sensation than others. Maybe places that are moving with your breath, or tingling, or pulsing, or areas that are particularly cool or particularly warm. Areas of neutral sensation. And if at all possible, notice if there's any areas that actually feel really nice. Maybe it's an area that's liking the softness of some clothing or a blanket on your skin. Or some bit of you that feels particularly warm or particularly perfectly cool. Or some yummy tingling. And lengthening your breath to a rate of about 5 breaths or 6 breaths per minute. So breathing in for about 4 or 5 seconds, breathing out for similar, but go with your intuitive rhythm, because I don't want you to feel that the breath is either too fast or too slow for your oxygen needs and for your sense of safety and rhythm. Just deeper than the breath you might be accustomed to during the day. So that rate of 5 or 6 breaths per minute supporting sleep. So adding that to your legs up the wall before bed would be giving you 2 tools that have evidence around them that support sleep and anxiety and hot flushes. Well, the breath supports those. The legs up the wall isn't related to those last two. And then let's bring a little movement into our ankles. And you could either pedal out your feet like you're driving a car so the feet are alternating, or you might move them together. So just the legs are staying still and it's literally just at the ankle joints. You could be pointing and flexing, or you might be circling. And see if you can even enjoy the sensation of your heels creating movement against the wall, or the movement of your tissue all the way up your legs, changing direction, breathing. And then come back to center and bring your legs wide without letting them fall on an inhale. And bring them back together on an exhale. Inhale, slide them wide, but not dropping them. Very much a controlled widening and narrowing exhale, bring them together. Inhale them wide. And exhale them together. Take your arms up to the ceiling. And we'll inhale the arms and legs wide. Big expansion through the chest. Exhale together. And the arms are going to come around and hug you. Inhale them wide. Maybe the arms go to the floor, but the legs don't collapse. Exhale together. And if you can cross the arms the other way for a second hug. And if you forgot which way you went first, as you next come to the hug, let's inhale wide. And as you exhale, come to the hug, go with your natural crossing of the arms without thinking of it. Have a look which one is on top. And as you inhale, open wide. And exhale the other way. Let's stay in the hug and bend the knees. And without too much pressure in the lower back, with very little pressure, in fact, maybe no pressure in the lower back, just feel yourself in this more little cozy cocoon. You can have your eyes open or closed, see how you enjoy or not having the eyes closed. Deepening your breath, come into your belly. Bring the belly into the thighs as you inhale. And let the belly drop away as you exhale. Either leave your legs as they are, or if you prefer them further up the wall, do that. We're going to work in the upper body for a little bit. Inhale, bring the arms, if you can, overhead, draped on the floor. And as you inhale, think of the elbows dropping to the floor and the armpits opening a bit more. And as you exhale, just let everything relax. It's not going to be anything you would see in looking at me, or anyone would see in looking at you. Just inhale this sense of downward pressure to the elbows and expansion through the armpits. Exhale to release. Inhale to press down. And exhale to release. One more time. Breathe in to press the elbows down, exposing or stretching the armpits and chest. And exhale to relax. Take your right foot up the wall and keep your left knee bent and hold it with your two hands. And just bring it a little closer to you if it's got any more journey available to it. Just lift our feeling into your left hip. Bring that knee out to the left slightly. Oh, so yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, you are in right and left. So the left knee moves out to the left with the left hand holding it. And then cross the left foot over to the opposite side of the right thigh and hold that with your right hand and draw it a little bit across. We're not going into a twist, just this little drawing of the right knee to left knee towards the right elbow almost. If possible here, bend your right knee and bring your 2 feet onto the wall by your hips into like cow's head pose. So the 2 knees are bent, one in front of the other, and your right foot is at your left buttock and your left foot is at your right buttock. And that's tricky. If you can't manage that, just cross your ankles at the wall and bring your 2 knees closer to the wall. So you're either in like a cross-legged position at the wall or in cow's head position where the legs are kind of wrapped one on top of the other. And breathe. And then unfurl your left leg onto the wall and take hold of your right knee in 2 hands, just letting it sink towards you rather than pulling it. And the other leg is up straight. That's it. Breathe. And then bring that knee out to the right, holding it in the right hand. A little external rotation, doesn't have to go far. Breathing. And then bring that right foot over the left thigh, and with your left hand, draw the knee a little over to the left, but it's not that you're rolling onto your side, just a little pull into the left thigh, hip, and buttock. And then cross the legs into cow's head or cross-legged that way. So this will probably feel quite different, maybe more awkward for some of you and easier for others. So either cow's head or the ankles or shins crossed. Either way, you're thinking the knees a little towards the wall and breathing. Cow's head, you don't need to be as keen to get the knees away from you. Now, this may be quite intense, and if it is too intense, push yourself away from the wall. We're going to bring the left foot onto the wall and the right ankle onto the left thigh. Now, for me, that's too intense today, so I'm just going to slide out from the wall a little bit so it feels a little more doable. So your right ankle on your left bent knee, sole of the left foot on the thigh. So this is great because this is giving you an idea. Sometimes when we come to this pose on the floor without the wall, eye of the needle, this is called, I would ask you to lift your foot and hold the back of your thigh. But now you're getting to feel what it's like to use the wall for eye of the needle, which means you can completely relax your hands and it's less effortful. But just make sure you're not so close that your right hip feels a bit pinched. And if you feel free to do so in your arms, take them up overhead, so you've also got this nice extension of the front body. Now, you know me, I'm all for little sensual swishy movements, which you're welcome to do, especially if it adds pleasure and if it pulls you away from a sort of sense of like, I must tolerate this stretch or I should go further in this stretch. And you can reduce the intensity by sliding the left foot down the wall. It doesn't have to be flat on the wall. And don't forget to breathe. And don't forget to look for yumminess. And don't forget to stay present to the changing sensations of the body and how there might be moments where your body likes this and then it gets sick of it. A bit like too much ice cream or too much time spent in company of someone who you like well enough, but at some point you're done. And then change your legs. So you now have the right foot on the wall, the left ankle on the right thigh. Don't forget you can reduce the intensity by either pushing away from the wall or bringing that right leg lower. And play around. You're welcome to leave your arms there or do anything else that they would prefer. For instance, if you want a bit of variation for the arms, you could bring the hands under the head And exhaling, bring the elbows together. And inhale, bring them wide, if that suits what you're doing or feels nice. Now, if you haven't slid away from the wall a bit, unhook the legs and slide away so that when the soles of your feet are on the floor, you feel fairly normal. You can still have your toes touching the wall, but I don't want you to feel like the wall is very close and pushing at the feet. And we're going to arch and flatten. So inhale, press the tailbone down. And exhale, flatten the lower back onto the floor. So arch and flatten, just to reiterate. At some point, I'll stop reiterating because everybody will know, is where we send the pelvis away from the face on the inhale, pressing the tailbone down. So there's a little gap between the lower back that a little mouse could crawl under. And as you exhale, the lower back presses down as if you're trying to hold a €100 note that you don't want to get blown away. Squashing it on the floor. And first of all, do it in a very passive way where you're not thinking about anything muscular and you're trying to keep as soft as possible. And then could you start exaggerating the muscular intensity here? So slow it down and make it feel like it's difficult by imagining you're moving through caramel. Sometimes I say peanut butter, sometimes I say wet cement. I'm in a caramel mood today. So pressing the tail down as you inhale, feel the engagement of the lower back muscles. And as you exhale, feel the engagement of the abdominal and pelvic floor muscles. And as you inhale, feel the engagement of the pelvic floor, even though it doesn't naturally inhale on the doesn't naturally engage on the inhale, try and make it engage on the inhale. And as you exhale, feel now the engagement of the buttocks and thighs as you lightly, slightly lift the pelvis and then go back to inhale and arch. And each time you exhale and curl, slightly lift the pelvis a little higher up off the floor. Inhaling to come down and arch. And exhale to curl the tail under, lift the pelvis a little as if you're about to touch your nose with your tail, your imaginary tail. Inhale to roll down. And next time you exhale to curl and lift the bum, bring your arms up overhead, breathing out, which is counterintuitive in the yoga world. Inhale, rolling down. Exhale, curl the tail under and lift up, arms up overhead. Keep a bit of tone in the pelvic floor and the back and the belly. And keep that tone as you inhale to come down with the arms and pelvis back to arching. 2 more. Exhale to curl the tail under, lift the pelvis, lift the arms. And inhale to roll down. And last time, exhale to roll up. Stay up for a moment, please. And bring your arms down under your body. And try and tuck your elbows in as far under your body as you can. Hook your thumbs and bring your palms down onto the floor. And rest your body onto your arms. So your pelvis will rest heavily on your wrists. Unhook your thumbs now so you're not hurting the bones crossed against each other. And get your elbows as far in under your trunk as you can. Press down through your elbows, lift your chest, and slide up towards the top of your head so that you're looking at the wall above your head. Your chest is lifted. And though your head is on the floor, most of your weight is on your hands and pelvis and elbows, so very little weight on your hands. Often when we do this pose, we first lift the head and then we lower it back down behind us, but I've brought you in through a slide here, but you're not going to come out on the slide. When you do choose to come out rather, just lift your head slightly so you're not sliding your weight on your head with it at this flexed angle, extended angle. Inhale here. And as you exhale, slide out. Take your arms out from under your body and bring them nice and wide in a T shape. And then rock your knees side to side. Knees one way, head the other. Into our wash rag twist. If the wall is annoying you, you can push away from the wall. Okay. Ladies, you're going to carry on doing that. I'm having the crisis of the booking, as expected. It's all right, Evie. So I'm going to get you to carry on with your wash rag twist, and so I may get interrupted again if the credit card situation doesn't work, but for now you can bring that to a close if you haven't already, and roll over onto your belly. So one of the best antidotes we can get to the daily grind physically is strengthening the back and lengthening the upper back, or not lengthening the upper back, but opening the chest. So come up into Sphinx, nice little easy back bend. So this is a nice antidote. And then if you think about the strength of the muscles, not right now, we're not working on strength because your arms are holding you up, but the stronger your back muscles are, the less likely you're going to be to slump when you're at your desk. So we'll do a little bit of both. What I'd like to do is just take the eyes into account now. And just open your eyes and take a few blinks. One of you was talking about tired eyes. And while you sit here or while you hang around here, without moving your head, bring your eyeballs right up to your eyebrows. So looking up, and then look extremely to the left without moving your head, down to the bottom, and off to the right. Up to the eyebrows, off to the left, down to the bottom, off to the right, and up, and left, and down, and right. Let's change direction. So we're going to go up, and right, and down, and left, and up, and right, and down, and left, and up. Did that work, love? And right, and down, and left, and then back to center. Yes. Sorry, ladies, have a little rest. Comedy parenting moments. Should be.
Well, I don't know why it is.
Okay.
That's the wrong one though.
So ladies, if you just take another little moment, I'm sorry about this. Thanks for your patience, ladies. I don't normally call you ladies, do I? You definitely get a lady badge for your patience. So we were doing stuff with our eyes. We're now going to leave that and come back to our eyes in a minute. We're going to do stuff for strength. So coming down onto the, like almost to your nose, lengthening the back of your neck. You can be on your elbows and hands, but try not to use them. So we're going to inhale here. As you exhale, press down through the pubic bone, elevate your legs, face, and chest nice and softly, but do give yourself a little back challenge, a little floating of the trunk and legs to work the muscles of the, I don't know, where do you feel it the most? You might feel it more in the lower and middle back and in the glutes and buttocks, glutes and hamstrings. Inhale down. And if you want to feel it more in the upper back or additionally in the upper back, exhale to lift everything and then also elevate your arms. So float your arms and then draw your elbows back towards each other as if you're trying to hold a ball behind your back with your elbows. A big ball, not a tennis ball. Don't want you to squish. And then you could stay up, inhale here, and exhale, pulse up a little higher for 5 goes. 5. My cat's joining me on my back. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Hold up that little bit higher, navel to spine for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and come down into Sphinx if you can, which might mean feet down and chest higher. And look over your left shoulder, looking back to try and see your left heel. And then look over your right shoulder, looking back to try and see your right heel. And breathe. And come back to center, inhale. And as you exhale, push up onto all fours, onto your hands and knees. And we're going to circle our weight over hands and knees. Little movements back and forth. Noticing what's the state of play in the wrists. And I know at least one of you has dodgy wrists, or wrists that don't like too much weight. Come down to your elbows. You can still work on wrist strength even if you're down on your elbows. You could be on the elbows, but be pressing the outsides of the wrists down into the floor. You could be interlacing the fingers and kind of squeezing the hands to deliberately create a bit more effort in the forearms, and circling the other way, maybe making it a bigger circle so you're getting more of a stretch into the shoulders and hips. Definitely bits that will have struggled with sitting all day, shoulders and hips. And then come back to center. And this is a tricky one. I'm not sure it'll be possible on elbows, but I think it might. Ooh, will it? I don't know. Let's go with the first part on the elbows. Take the left leg out behind you, approximately in line with the hips. So try not to go up here into a back bend. We are going to back bend in a minute, but for a moment, try and keep it in line with the hip. Whether you're on hands or elbows is absolutely fine here. Either one, it's fine. You can be on elbows, no problem. If your wrist is fine with it, then stay on the wrists. That's okay. You can come up to the knuckles if it's better. And then we're going to bend that left knee. And this is tricky now. We're going to see, can we reach back with the right hand to try and, whoo, I can't do it when I turn to the side, I lose my balance, to try and just brush the left heel with the fingertips or even hold the left heel. So you're in a funny little back bend here. This is primarily for stretching the hip flexors, the front of the hips, front of the hip and thigh. So you don't have to hold the foot as long as you're feeling a stretch in the front of the left thigh. Changing sides, first of all. We're going with a straight leg, tone in the belly and pelvic floor, push out through the foot, drop that right hip in line with the left. That's it. And then if you feel like it, bend that knee and reach back to try and hold. And this is quite the stretch, as I say, for the front of that elevated leg hip. Try not to hang in the belly. Draw the standing leg, standing arm, shoulder back. So don't let that right shoulder creep up around your ears. Inhale here and exhale to release. My cat's making me move off my cozy sheepskin. On your elbows or on your hands, lift your knees and come back into a face down dog. If that's too much on your shoulders and hands, do a standing forward hang, but with osteoporosis, keep the spine neutral. So with osteoporosis, you'd have your elbows on your knees and your spine elevated. Without osteoporosis, you'd be dangling forward with a nice rounded spine, hangy head, hangy arms, hangy hair, and lots of breath. Maybe a little sway through the feet in your dog or your standing forward fold. It can be a bit of a mooch about. Where have you not stretched yet that wants a bit of a wake up? And then come back down to your knees, please. And if you have some yoga blocks, or if you have firm cushions or a stool or a box, or even like a couple of saucepans or a pile of books, a couple of piles of books to take to the front of your mat. And if you have a kitten, you'll have to do your yoga to suit the cat. Oh, he's so lovely though. And step your right foot between your blocks. And bring your fingertips down to the blocks. So we're working again on the hip flexors. So we're thinking mostly here about the back leg hip and just bringing it slightly towards the floor and slightly away. And slightly towards the floor and slightly away. Now, though I've asked you to focus on that hip, make sure you're not hurting the other hip. Like if it's too tight in that right hip, come up onto your fingertips and you can still bring that back hip towards and away from the floor. Just imagine you're sort of juicing it up, warming it up. Keep the sternum lifted, the shoulders back and down. And then we're going to tuck the toes of the back foot, lift the back knee and come into a higher lunge. And work on the calf of that back leg now by reaching the heel back and forward and back. You're welcome to bend the knee a lot for the entire thing or a bit for the entire thing, or go fairly straight. Come up to your knuckles or fingertips if your wrists are sore and breathe. And then we'll take the left heel down onto the floor and take the right block inside your ankle. Take your left hand onto your left hip, rotate your sternum to the left, press into your feet, a micro bend in that right leg so you don't lock the right knee, and then rotate your sternum out to the left. And let's see how your hands want to behave. Where does that left arm want to go? Pressing the feet into the floor. Do you want an elevated left arm to the ceiling? Does it want to be overhead? Does it want to be down, reaching towards the back of the mat? Does it want to be behind your back and give you a nice shoulder stretch, drawing the left shoulder back? See what you fancy. Play with the posture. Let the left hip roll forward a little so you're not pulling that left hip back and straining the sacroiliac. And then if it feels possible, take your right hand off the block, come up to vertical, disappearing out of the video. Take the left hand down and the right hand up into a reverse triangle. That's it. I'm not moving the video because I'm going to be coming down again, but I will in a minute. Inhale here. Exhale, windmill the hands down and take two blocks and step them forward. So bring the left block in front of your toes and the right block on top of it like a T shape, an upside down T shape. And heel toe your left foot in a bit so that you're a little less doing the splits, a narrower stance. Take the left foot off the floor, if you can, coming up into your warrior, no, your half moon. And this can be down here with the toes on the floor, or up here with the leg parallel to the floor, or anywhere in between. Just like in triangle, try to let the left hip roll forward a little. Whoop, lost my balance there. And then if you feel able, you turn your sternum to the left and see what you want to do with the left hand. Does it want to go behind you, reach back towards the left foot, up towards the ceiling, or overhead? Whatever makes sense for you today. My balance is not so easy right now. Shoulders back from the ears, navel to the spine. And lift the pelvis off your thigh bone. Great job. Take the foot down. And step your right foot far back, knee to the floor, and bring the blocks vertical either side of the left foot. And we're working into the front of the right hip, so hips lowering and rising. So we're not pushing down, we're just kind of with muscular control, easing down, moving. Just to get the cobwebs out of the right hip. Lots of breath. And then tucking the back toes. Lift the back knee and instead rocking back and forth over the back toes to work into the right calf. Any sense of pressure in that left hip, please rise up a bit. You could be up here, folks, I should have said on the other side, which may be stronger muscularly, but less pressury on that front hip. Very valuable to do that kind of thing, to work more on strength and less on bendiness. Then we're going to take the right heel onto the floor. Take the left block inside the ankle, straighten the left leg without locking the knee, and turn the sternum to the right. Draw the right shoulder back, and if it feels appropriate, float the top arm up or leave it hanging or bring it behind your back, whatever you kind of fancy doing with that top arm. Really, it depends on what you feel you've missed or where the desire is. Lots of breath. And if you feel like it, take that other block in front of your foot, about a foot ahead of your left foot, and bring the left block on top in a upside down T shape, and either come here, fingertips on the blocks, right toes on the floor, or elevate the right leg completely, or anywhere in between. When you get your tricky level, where it's just tricky enough that you can work on figuring it out and not so tricky that you're falling all over the place, then you start moving your chest around to the right, and then maybe your arm, and then maybe your gaze, or take a step back and back and back until you're at that place where it's difficult, but you can work on it. I can put my foot in the wall here, nice cheat that feels a little bit more stable, but you got to not be too close to the wall or you'll get pushed away from the wall. Or you could be here and use the wall with the right hand and open out. Play around. Yeah, beautiful. Perfect. And when you feel cooked, step your 2 feet to neutral, bend your knees, and either hang or bend forward from the hips, depending on your bone density status, and indeed your hamstring and lower back comfort, because that can be challenging. And breathe, breathe, breathe. And then when you're ready, bend your knees, walk your way up your legs to vertical. And come to the wall. And if you have any annoying pictures on the wall, take them off. It's not an annoying picture, it's actually a very nice picture. But in this moment, it is inconveniently placed. We're going to slide down the wall and do a little isometric exercise. So the weird thing is this is good for blood pressure, to reduce blood pressure, to press against immovable objects. You would think it would be the opposite. Indeed, it would probably raise blood pressure while we're doing it, but the knock-on effect is to reduce it. Go and lie down, doggy, you're in the way of the picture. Now, if you've got a bit of kind of go for it energy in you tonight, which is a bit unlikely, we're going to try carefully to lift one foot off the floor here. You might want to hold the wall with your hands. Very difficult. And down again. And lift the other one. And down. And maybe if you did manage it, do a couple more on each side. like you're marching on a chair. You really need either a sticky floor or a sticky mat. If you've got anything slippy under you, this is not achievable. Don't bother doing it if you can't be arsed, because that's really no messing. If you kind of like the idea of a bit more effort, just go a bit lower, and then you don't have to work on the leg lifting. Whew. I'm kind of cheating because I've got my fingernails in one of the rungs of wood, one of the planks of wood helping me, and then push down into the floor to come up. And come up to vertical and step away from the wall. My regulars will be accustomed to this little practice. We're going to bring the arms up overhead and tip the wall with our thumb and index finger. So my sweater is not helping because it makes me look like I'm really poking my ribs, but it's sticky out. Maybe if I take it off, it'll be evident that we don't want to poke the ribs forward. So it's a consistent back bend from the tail to the base of the skull. And breathe. This would be a great little movement snack in the middle of a day at the computer to find your way to a wall and step away from it and try and reach it. And then we go with wide arms, bringing your fingernails to the wall while you are away from the wall. This would be good if you have shoulder issues that don't allow you to bring the arms high. Relax your jaw and breathe. And then we're going to keep the right hand where it is and turn around to bring the two hands facing front and the pelvis facing perpendicular to the wall. So you're now facing your two hands and they are sideways onto the wall. Then bring your left hand where your right hand is and slide your right hand back. So now your left hand is in front of you at about chest height and your right hand, I'm going to pretend this is the wall, right hand is behind you. I'm pretending that the video camera is the wall. So here's the wall, left hand in front, right hand behind. So this is a great old chest stretch. Keep the hips facing front. If you've osteoporosis, don't do anything. Just allow this to be sufficient twist. If you don't have osteoporosis, turn to look to your right hand. Actually, that's probably fairly safe with osteoporosis, but don't do the next bit, which is to push into the right hand to draw your chest around towards the right hand. So you're twisting the chest towards the wall. With osteoporosis, just trust that the arm and neck position is sufficient to twist you without injury. And breathe, lifting through the pelvic floor and lower abdomen. Relax the jaw. About a foot of space between you and the wall. And then the great thing is that to change sides, we can leave our hands exactly as they are. And instead turn to face the wall with the pelvis, keep the fingertips on the wall, and then turn the pelvis the entire other way. So your hands are on the wall, and your pelvis is at right angles to the wall, facing to the right. A little mula bandha. With osteoporosis, no pressure in the hands, just turn your head to look back to your left hand, and that's plenty. Without osteoporosis, you can pressure into the left hand and try and turn a bit further. But to be honest, that turn isn't going to be much bigger because I'd love you to keep the pelvis facing away from the wall. And breathe. Little tone in the belly and pelvic floor. This would be a great snack. So you could think, okay, here's some movement snacks by the wall to help you remember them. So first, to help you remember, we leaned against the wall with the knees bent for a little bit of blood flow for that effort of isometric exercise. Then we stood up and arched backwards with the arms overhead. Then we brought the arms wide to touch the fingernails to the wall. And now we're going into these two twists. Last thing at the wall, turn to face the wall. Bring your hands onto the wall or just fingertips, depending on wrist strength and comfort. And walk your feet back enough that when you bend forward at your hip joints, you come parallel to the floor in the trunk, vertical in the legs. Have a quick look. This is what I would tend to see in studios, is that people go too close to the wall and the knees lock and the bum is back much further than the heels. That's not good. less damaging, but just not as effective as having the feet too far back and being at a forward angle in the hips. But that's fine. But optimal is hips over the knees, staying over the knees, over the heels rather, and a slight bend in the knees and a lift through the tail. And hanging down between the arms, and the arms wide for shoulder discomfort. Or you can try, if your wrists don't like it, with your elbows on the wall. That's a bit trickier for the shoulders, but much easier for the wrists. You can have a look if you're curious about what that is. Breathing and feel that lovely openness in the chest. And if you're keen to remember again the snack that I've just taught you, so you get up from your desk, you go to a wall, you slide down it in a sitting position just to get the blood flowing with that bit of isometric contraction. Then after a while, you come up, you turn away from the wall with your bum not touching the wall. So you're just about a foot away from the wall. You bring the arms up overhead to touch the wall. Then you bring the arms out wide to touch the wall. And then you come up and you do those two twists up the wall. And then this little forward bend. And as you inhale to come up, we'll just stand free of the wall. So we've gone in lots of different directions. We've twisted, we've back bended, we've forward bended, and we've engaged the muscles. And we just finish with a side stretch. So rest your heads, not your heads, your arms on your head. I don't know how many heads you have, and tilt to one side. Nice and easy. And don't forget to breathe. And come back to center and tilt to the other side. Lots of breath. And then come back to vertical. Inhale the arms up and exhale them down behind you. If you don't have time for all of those snacks, this is your single snack for the body position for sitting a lot, is interlacing the fingers and lifting the arms. You can even do that in the chair. So that would be your movement snack, the tiniest movement snack. And then bring the arms back to limp. And we'll do a focus and a snack for the eyes and a snack then for focus. So the snack for the eyes is something you've probably come across before. Just hold your thumb out in front of your nose and don't look at it just yet, but find something about, if you can, 10 feet or so in front of you. Is probably, if you're in a room, as far away in front of you as you can, or even out a window if it's daylight, 10, 20 feet. And then focus on your thumb, and then focus on whatever it is in the distance, and thumb, and distance, and thumb, and distance, and thumb, and distance, and thumb, and distance. Now gaze at the thumb, and this is a great eye exercise for concentration, is convergence. So bring the thumb right back towards the bridge of your nose and stare at it. So you're really having to work to bring the eyes to center, and then come away. You can do this sitting or standing. You could do it in a balancing pose to add challenge. Thumb to center, stare, stare, stare. Notice that when it comes very close, you kind of lose the real deep focus. So only bring it as close as you can stay really focused. And then back. And if you're interested, you could film yourself doing this and see if one eye travels in more than the other. So let's say your left eye doesn't travel in as much as the right. If that was the case, then you would instead bring your thumb slightly to the right as you do this convergence, so that the left eye has to work a bit harder to see it. Oh my gosh, I'm tired. Rub your palms together. And hold those warm palms over your eyes. With your eyes closed, just feel the heat from the palms. A sense of, I don't know, almost like the the equivalent of a hot water bottle on a tired lower back. Imagine this heat soothing your eyes. Keep the eyes closed and rub your hands together again. Cup again, feel that heat. And if you're okay to keep your eyes closed when the heat starts to dissipate, just begin to tap around your eyebrows and all around the eye sockets, the bones around the eyes. Tap, tap, tap. And then maybe tapping very lightly with the middle fingers on the actual eyelids, really delicate. It's making me ticklish in the eyeballs, tickly eyeballs. Who knew that was possible? And then with a few blinks, open your eyes, notice how they're doing, interlace your fingers, turn your palms down, bring your arms up overhead. If you don't have a wall, you can do your stretch like this. Breathing in. And we're going to exhale and bring all of that together in a way by keeping the right hand where it is and bringing the left hand behind you to maybe hold the lower back or reach towards the left back of thigh. That may be enough of a dancer's pose for you, or you may be in the mood to take the left foot back, and that may be enough of a dancer's pose for you. Feel all those lovely extensions in the front body. Or maybe you want to take the left foot up and hold the cuff of your trousers or the cuff of your socks, like using a strap. Micro bend the standing knee. Flex the left ankle. If you want, and it's easy to hold the ankle, do, but as long as you're activating that left leg, it doesn't matter what you're holding. And then take the heel back. The sternum will come forward a little bit, but keep it elevated and try not to lock the standing knee into our delicious dancer's pose, which we've kind of basically warmed up to over this entire practice. Breathing, you can use the wall if you're feeling, yeah, you've warmed my body up for it, but you haven't fixed my balance issues. So the right fingertips on the wall is fine too, maybe just one fingertip. And then releasing, taking a moment, just feeling how the right and left body feel right now in terms of expansion and the effects of that stretch. Breathing. Staying centered now, or staying connected to your central strength, your belly. So often I talk about this sense in menopause where we want our own company, but we need to stay connected in the world. So feel your central strength, because this is going to be good for you physiologically as well. So feel a sense of strength in the belly as you take the left arm up and the right leg back. So as you move to whatever version of dancer's pose you want to do, have this sense of strength in the belly. Maybe you're taking the right foot off the floor to hold the cuff of the trousers or the ankle, flexing the ankle. Maybe the fingertips come onto the wall. Keep the sternum open as the heel moves away. Please try not to collapse that right foot into your bum. Try not to point the toes. So you're activating the back leg. Let the right knee roll out to the right a little. If you're extending the spine, we have external rotation of the femur, the thigh bone. Breathing, tone the tummy, pelvic floor. Inhale. And exhale, stay back at your center. As you close your eyes standing or leave them open if that's too spooky, and come back to the strength of your belly. So notice how you feel in terms of posture, which we've worked on, sense of openness, sense maybe of tiredness and heaviness that we've tried to kind of cast off by opening the front body and working on the eyes. And then give the body a little hug, so wrapping the elbows around. And feeling that sense of holding, but also on a very physiological level, a different kind of stretch for the upper back. And breathe into the upper back. Now, if you've osteoporosis, for most of us, this won't create too much of a rounding in the spine, but if it's hard for you to hug, you might be kind of rounding to try and reach around for the hug. Just try and undo any rounding if you can. And then if you feel like, again, turning this into a bit more of a challenge, we can make it a light balancing pose by bending the knees and crossing the toes of one leg over to the other side of the foot. And that's plenty, sitting right down. Drawing inward and upward at the pubic, not at the pubic bone, the pelvic floor. Drawing inward and upward between the pubic bone and the navel. So two bandhas there, Mula Bandha and Uddiyana Bandha. And if you want to add more challenge, you don't have to take your toes off the floor. You could just close your eyes. More balanced challenge, which brings in more muscular challenge. And then inhale to slowly unfurl, perhaps with open eyes. Remembering which way you crossed your arms. I should have said that before you unfurled. If you're not sure which way you crossed your arms, just do it without thinking, and then you're likely to have to do the other one to be doing a different side. And if you're doing the same shoulders, same arms, you're not going to, excuse me, ruin yourself. Bending the knees, crossing the other foot over to the other side of the standing leg, and you're sitting down quite low. And then if you feel like adding balancing challenge, you could simply close your eyes. This side may be more or less difficult. Don't forget to breathe. And then rising up, taking a moment. And there are no prizes for guessing which restorative pose I would suggest for an antidote to sitting all day. We did one of them, which was legs up the wall. So you can imagine what the other one would be. And there are no prizes, but at the same time, bravo if you thought reclining cobbler. Because as you can imagine, it's opening everything that will have been closed in a seated position. And of course, as always, it supports so many, the entire body is physiologically supported in the shape, which is, I guess, the same with all restorative poses. The whole body should be physiologically supported, but it's, yeah, there's not really one part of the body that isn't addressed. Just remember, please, to have plenty under your knees. So when we started the class, remember I was saying about people in the yoga world maybe not being accustomed to having cushy supports, even when they're, unless they're officially resting. But you are now officially resting, so you can get used to the idea of seriously cushy supports. Bring blanket. Bring something to cover your eyes, perhaps a sock or multiple socks or sleeve of a sweater or an eye pillow, whatever you happen to have. Or as you might recall, I'll try and demonstrate this to you now. Go on, doggy, up, up. Go on, up. Dog has been waiting patiently for space on the sofa. Now he's got it. So you may remember this nice trick with the blanket, where you make a little mini neck roll, and most of the blanket then is draped over the top of the end of the bolster, so that when you sit and lie with the neck roll in your neck, the rest of the blanket can come overhead and you can press it down into your eyes, which is a really delicious little support. I was doing this for my retreat guests last week, and they were just so delighted with the blanket over their head. They'd never done it before. And if you happen to have a cat to sit on you, it can feel quite soothing to have weight on your front body. If you don't have a cat, you could put cushions or blankets on your front body to feel even more light. I'm sure I've said this to you before, but I would love to see in workplaces a rest room. I don't mean a restroom like the American term for a toilet, but I mean a room where staff go to rest during the day. And I think that that restroom should be, that the use of it should be obligatory for every member of staff for at least 15 minutes per day. And it could be filled with restorative props and bean bags and darkness and quiet. Winding inwards, even though you are opening outwards. Imagining that you are going in to inhabit the space and silence of your internal world after the stimulus of screens and work. Just picturing all the space that you have around you. Space either side of you, not just in the room, but through the walls and into the dark night. Or if you're watching the recording, of course, it may be into some beautiful daylight. Just picturing how much space there is either side of you over streets and fields and cities and oceans, endless space. And there's space above you and at your feet and all the way through the walls, overhead and down the other way. Space beneath you down into the earth, and space above you up into the sky. And if it is dark, it's easy, isn't it, to imagine the space between things. We look to the sky and we see these stars close together, but I think our learning has given us enough of a conception of the vastness of the spaces between that which is in the celestial space. What would it be like to imagine that you could go walking in that vastness of the universe and to look around at space, spaciousness? No images flashing, no information burying its way or squirreling its way into you. Just simple space. And what would it be like to imagine that you could bring this space into your brain, or to inhabit your brain as if it was as broad and open as the universe? a sense more of potential than crowdedness. Like an open book. Where the story has not yet been written. And there is space for anything to land on these pages. And space and value for nothing. For simple existence without agenda. As we did at the beginning, could you notice your breath? Could you notice somewhere in your body that feels comfortable? Somewhere in your body that might feel a little achy? somewhere in your body that has sensations that are interesting to you. Somewhere in your body that feels something that you might call pleasurable. Maybe somewhere warm or somewhere cool. Somewhere that feels more relaxed, broader perhaps. And if anything's changed, notice that as well. What's different? And is it possible for you to know what makes you feel better? What helped? You're welcome to stay as you are. A nice antidote to this antidote can be to roll to your side, which is a nice curly, inny, supportive kind of position after this surrendered, open position. Or as I say, stay where you are if that's really feeding you. And just know that it would be a good idea whenever you do decide to finish your practice to spend time on your side, to spend time sitting up, and to spend time gently returning to the world. For now, what would you like to take with you from this practice? Allow yourself to cement it for yourself. Earlier, I repeatedly listed a sequence we did at the wall to try and help you cement it. But is there something that would help you, something you want to cement, and how would you do that in thought right now? When you're ready, I will say farewell. I will say, may you be well. May you be free from harm. May you progress where possible, and may you be at ease with the rest. Om Shanti. Peace. Namaste. I bow to you. And to those of you who join me live, I'll see you next week. Rest well. Thank you.